Welcome to 4th and 1, the Chiefs podcast here on 41 Action News. We are excited to bring you another weekly preview edition. Chiefs getting ready to take on the Cleveland Browns. I believe there's Mr. John Dorsey. Nick, you're on his Christmas card list, if I recall, correct?
Yeah, me and Baby Jack.
There you go.
I'm sure is like 10 now.
There you go. All right. I'm Todd Palmer. We are here talking all things about the 7-1 Kansas City Chiefs, joined as always by Nick Jacobs, who also is John Dorsey's best friend, so he has some great insight on the Cleveland Browns. We've got Mr. Kevin Holmes, one of our fine anchors here at 41 Action News.
I think John Dorsey may be my long-lost pops, but we are one step closer to a Bears-Chiefs Super Bowl.
I mean, I was gonna say, if I didn't know better, I would swear that you look just like John Dorsey.
Yeah.
I think if you had glasses, you would basically be twins.
I'm waiting on my allowance.
And you can have like a lot of chew in your mouth too at the same time.
And then
You get a lot of that.
And then, of course, a man who looks nothing like John Dorsey, the incomparable Gary Lezak. Gary, how are you today?
I take that as a compliment. I really appreciate it.
You should.
I really do. It's great to be here with you guys, and always impressed with your knowledge. I mean, Nick, how long have you been a Chiefs fan?
I don't know, 30 years or so?
Since you were born.
Well, I mean, I don't account for the 2 years since I couldn't coherently understand things.
So he didn't count for the last 2 years either.
Burn.
Welcome back, Nick. It's so good to have you back. And for those of you who follow this podcast, Nick had surgery on his wrist, but he is back in studio. Got all the hugs and tickles he could handle.
I told you, you're not allowed to do that or there's going to be a restraining order.
All right, man. But, hey, let's get into this because, look, I remember a couple years ago when the Chiefs were coming out of the Todd Haley, Scott Pioli, Romeo Crennel disaster that was a series of years there. They played Cleveland. And Terez Paylor of Yahoo Sports and I, back when we were both at another local news institution, we're talking about, is this a matchup between the two worst franchises in the NFL? And at the time, we pretty much were like, yeah, I mean, look, the Chiefs, this is before they'd won that playoff game against Houston. They'd been fairly well in abject failure for a long time. And so we kind of settled on the fact that, yeah, it just might be. Obviously, the Chiefs now trending in the right direction. They've got Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid has stabilized things. They've been to the playoffs, 4 of the last 5 years. Pretty much a lock, according to Vegas, to make it 5 of 6. But here you are facing, without question, the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL. Oh. And, Nick, I think there was some news this week. I mean, didn't they get rid of not only their coach, but Todd Haley?
Yeah, it was surprising because I figured he'd be the interim head coach. I really thought that's the road they were going to go down. But then the more I thought about it, Dorsey wants to clean that whole thing out there, and he wanted to, from people I talked to, he wanted to originally, but Jimmy Haslam, the owner, was not going to allow that. So because of that, Dorsey had to just go along for the ride there and enjoy the fireworks whenever you have Greg Williams and Todd Haley, along with Hugh Jackson there, because Hugh's not an alpha male like those two guys are.
That's some subversives.
And Hugh's not about that life like they are, that aggressiveness. So Hugh, unfortunately, wasn't gonna. He had the deck stacked against him. So unfortunately, that wasn't gonna work out. And then they made the calculated move to put themselves on Hard Knocks. And the reason I say that now is because you look at it now after the result.
How'd that go?
There was a lot of stuff. Teams have final approval of what they can or can't put on that show, and there's a lot of stuff on there that you're not going to find on a lot of other Hard Knocks that helped perpetuate that dysfunction to where people could see that things were going to go sideways real quick there.
So now it has gone sideways, and it's just amazing. How is Baker Mayfield going to perform? I mean, this is going to be extremely difficult. If it were Patrick Mahomes in his second year like he is now, I can see him maybe running an offense like that. But Baker Mayfield is going to have to be lost, right?
Yeah, you would think so. And actually, that's a nice segue. Let's hear from Baker Mayfield about his reaction to the firing of Hugh Jackson and the subsequent dismissal only a few hours later of Todd Haley.
We're going to stay with the same system. We're not going to mid-season throw in a new playbook. That's not what we're doing. So it's the same things over and over. We have to be detailed. We have to do our job the best we can. And so this is a good week to do that. With all distractions, we'll see what kind of men we have in this room. Not what kind of team we have, but what kind of men can handle a distraction the right way, can come together and focus on doing their job and doing it at a high level against a great team come Sunday.
Wow.
That's Baker Mayfield talking about, the week of turmoil that he experienced in Cleveland. You no longer do they have the head coach, no longer do they have the offensive coordinator, and he's talking about we're going to find out what kind of men we have. Look, this was a 2-5-1 football team before they cleaned house of leadership. Kevin, what's your reaction to Mayfield?
Well, a couple things. First of all, I think the Cuyahoga is still on fire right now, on fire again. I mean, everything that's happening in Cleveland right now. But I would argue, you said earlier, they may be the most dysfunctional team in the NFL. I might say they're the second most dysfunctional. I mean, Oakland lost yesterday.
The Raiders are in disarray.
Yeah, they lost yesterday to a guy who started at quarterback who last week was, I saw him at Jack Stack.
But that's a team that was in the playoffs just 2 years ago. I mean, that's
and
a
they're
team
1-7 now. You go from a team that's 2 years ago 1-15, last year 0-16, now 2-5-1. I still don't understand.
But they're moving to Las Vegas. They're going to have a new stadium. That franchise is making lots of money.
Yeah,
and some
they
of
have
the
a
things
lot
they're
of
doing.
draft choices. They're fine.
Cleveland has been. I mean, look, Cleveland was a mess the last 5 years before the first version of the franchise left with Art Modell to go to Baltimore. And since they reestablished the franchise in '99, they've been to the playoffs twice. They've been to the playoffs once. Had 2 winning seasons since 1999, and no playoff wins. I mean, and I think they've been through 30 or 31 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, but one good thing about this team still, despite all the changes this week, is that they're pretty solid on defense against the pass, at least. Against the pass. And, you got somebody like Mahomes who can gunsling it. So I think that, that little matchup there will be very, very interesting. However, I still question why they made all these changes right now at this juncture in the season. You're 1-15 2 years ago, 0-16 last year. What did you expect? 11-5 this year? You won 2 games.
4 overtime. Have they played 4 overtime games?
Yes.
At least, yeah.
4 overtime games.
Well, and I mean, I think I think they were making progress, compared to years
Can't
past.
haul off the floor.
But exactly. But you can't get worse than 0-16. I mean, and I know, people, Hugh Jackson, gave that odd interview to Cleveland.com or whoever it was. But I mean, son, you were 336-1 in 4 years. Like that, if that doesn't get you fired, I don't know what does. But here's like the dream scenario. At least, maybe if you're a football fan. Not a Chiefs fan, because it's probably not a dream scenario for Nick here. But
no,
Nick,
whatever it is, no.
These two guys have met before. Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes have led teams into battle before. And the last time they met, when Baker Mayfield was at Oklahoma and when Patrick Mahomes was at Texas Tech, it was epic. I mean, they combined for 12 touchdowns. They combined for 1,300 yards passing. It was insane. Are we in for something similar to that, Nick? Because I think we're all pretty safe in assuming that the Chiefs are going to put up 40-plus points in this one, right? But can Cleveland keep pace against that defense, or do we think the defense is improved enough?
I would ask the rest of the room first because I don't want to deflate your bubble here real quick.
66-59 in that call.
Yeah, no, that was Oklahoma.
That's not going to happen
Texas Tech
Sunday.
that game.
That is not going to happen Sunday.
No, I think that Baker Mayfield is a ticking time bomb. I just think he's emotional. He's got some emotional immaturity, and I just think he's no Patrick Mahomes, which is great. And I just think that he's a little adversity. If the Chiefs can create that, he's just he'll lose it. And so I think it's not going to be anything like a shootout. It better not be, Nick. What do you think now?
Well, no, Kevin. I mean, what do you think?
I do not think it'll be a shootout. First of all, I doubt if Cleveland gets more than 13 points, and that's being very, very generous. But on the contrary, I feel as if sometimes this ball club plays down to the level of competition. This ball club being the Chiefs.
No.
So I don't know if they'll put up 40 points.
Whoa.
I'll give them like 27.
Okay, wait, hey, Mr. Bear fan.
Yeah.
The Chiefs haven't played down to any competition, not what I've seen. They have played incredibly consistent.
That first Denver game.
Denver's good.
That's a
defensively.
A game in Denver against a very good defense on the road on Monday Night Football. I mean, look, it's not like they went to Tampa and had to go to overtime to win.
Okay, and I understand.
Bears.
I understand the DNA of this squad is much better than prior years. The Chiefs squad. You remember a couple years ago when they went 12-4? They should have gone 14-2. They lost 2 games. They had no business losing to Tennessee and to Tampa.
Well,
I remember those games vividly. What I'm saying is, I think
But,
there's
but
going
I,
to be a
I
game.
think more than any other sport, what you did the year before or what you were 2 years ago is more irrelevant to the NFL than it is in any other sport at any other time, especially when you have a turnover at quarterback.
The NFL has more parity than almost any other league, too, though. And I mean, from 1 to 32 isn't as staunch a difference as there is from like the MLB or the NBA, even.
Yeah. Well, but that's still, you're talking to me about what a team did 2 years ago under Alex Smith when Patrick Mahomes wasn't even on the team.
Touche. And don't get me
He
wrong.
was still just a twinkle in Andy Reid's eye, man.
Hey, I think we're all in agreement, though. I think the Chiefs are going to win, and they're going to win by more than 2 scores. I just don't think they'll put up a barrage of points like my man Lezak over here thinks they'll put up 50, 60. He thinks they're going to break the scoreboard. Come on, Lezak.
Well, it's at Cleveland, so it's a road game, so I get that. But 4 touchdown passes for Patrick Mahomes. How many points is that? That's 28 right there.
Yeah.
Right?
You-
Three
He's
games
got a
in
point.
row.
He's
Three
got a
games
point.
in a
That's
row.
math. Unless Bucker misses another extra point.
we might go for
that's
2.
That's just math, man.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, the secret weapon the Chiefs have though is the AFC Player of the Month, who, of course, if you followed the Chiefs at all, was a defensive player, right?
Unbelievable.
Who didn't see that coming? Nick.
What? I didn't even know that.
D Ford.
Oh, okay.
D
He's
Ford.
been playing well.
Contract year is undefeated. D Ford was the AFC Defensive Player of the Month. First of all, how stunned are you by that, Nick? And second of all, I mean, especially, we'll get to the injury report here in a little bit, but with some of the issues they've got going on their offensive line, I mean, is this going to be a day where D Ford outshines Myles Garrett?
It could be because their left tackle is terrible, and so is their right tackle actually. So, so they're on the struggle bus on both sides. So,
But at least their center's hurt.
Yeah, they got that going for them too. So, D Ford, if he doesn't have 4 sacks in this game, then he needs to check himself and do better.
So, well, let's put you on the spot then. Which one will which one will have more? Patrick Mahomes touchdown passes or D Ford sacks?
I like that.
I would go D Ford if he's playing at the high level that he should in a contract year, not the other years. Then he should have more sacks than Mahomes has.
If he has 4 sacks, that'll give him 12 for the year. That's just crazy.
I think though, but when Mahomes throws 6 touchdowns, then I think what he's saying is
come
D
on
Ford is
here,
going to
man.
tie
Come
Derek
on.
Thomas's record with 7 sacks in a game. Is that not what
you literally?
I'm
went
pretty sure I
5
heard that.
miles the other way.
Exactly.
We'll check the recording later. But Megan, back me up here as the producer. That's what you heard, right?
I heard it.
We're going to tweet that out later, right?
Yeah, we're
No,
gonna cut the
only
video,
you two heard
put it-
that. Only you two heard that. Didn't I
I'm
read
pretty
like
sure
2
you
weeks
just
ago?
said that D Ford is the second coming of Derek Thomas. That's
That is like the exact opposite of I will ever
Exactly.
say.
What are you guys doing
No,
over there?
He
but
looked
seriously,
that good, though, last few weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gary, you seem stunned, but what have you seen from D Ford and the fact that he's AFC Defensive Player of the Month? I've even seen some mid-season All-Pro teams list D Ford and of course Mahomes and even Mitchell Schwartz on the one that I saw as All Pros, best of their position.
He's
so far
got
this year.
that burst. He's got that burst around the edge. He's not jumping off sides because sometimes he gets that burst right off the snap and it looks like he's off sides. And they better not call a penalty because sometimes they call a penalty even though he's on sides. But he's just very impressive right now, very fast, and he's even causing some fumbles, so it's exciting. Now, Justin Houston, we haven't got the injury report. Is he coming back?
No, that's what we're going to get to right now. All right, Megan, so hit us with that knowledge. What you got on the injury report? And look, we know Eric Berry is still doubtful and will probably be doubtful for the rest of his career.
Maybe not. That's
He might
down
play in
to
the
state
Super
Come on
rate.
now. Come on now.
Anyway,
He's going to play fewer than 5 more games the rest of his career.
Justin Houston
Maybe.
is questionable. Anthony Hitchens is questionable. Mitch Morse and Frank Zombo are out.
Yeah, and of course, Zombo's one of the guys they brought back when Terrence Smith went on the IR last week, and then he immediately injures his hamstring. Moore's still dealing with a concussion. Good news is, or is it good news, Nick, that Cam Irving was a full participant with that neck injury, and looks like he's going to be available there at the old left guard spot.
Yeah, it is what it is.
All right, how about on the Cleveland side? Any injuries of note that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, they have 5 guys questionable. Demarius Randall,
Starting safety,
growing. Antonio Callaway,
starting wide receiver.
go. Desmond Harrison, he's ill.
That's the left tackle. Nick
Yeah,
was
I'm
talking
hoping
about.
he's not ill on Sunday because I'd like D4 to go against him.
J.C. Treader,
That's the center we were talking about, who's been in and out.
and Rashard Higgins questionable.
Rashard Higgins, another wide receiver. They've got some depth issues there. And it looks like EJ Gaines, I think EJ, shout out Fort Osage, Independence native, Mizzou guy. It looks like EJ is expected to play in this one. Although I think last I saw, he was like third on the depth chart there at cornerback. But whatever. EJ, we love you. So anyway, we're going to take a break real quick, guys. And then when we come back, we will pick it up with more 4th and 1. Welcome back to 4th and 1. I'm Todd Palmer, joined by Mr. Nick Jacobs, Mr. Kevin Holmes, and Mr. Gary Lezak. We are talking Chiefs, Cleveland Browns, and Nick, I want to toss this to you. I mean, look, it's still the NFL. Greg Williams has had some pretty good defenses. May or may not have a bounty on Patrick Mahomes this week. Don't know for sure.
Hey.
But if anybody was going to have a bounty on Patrick Mahomes, it would probably be Greg Williams, wouldn't it? I mean. Do y'all not remember what he did with the Saints?
I mean, technically, he has
I wish everybody could just see the faces when you said that.
You went from 0 to like 2,000
look,
in
man,
a matter of seconds.
Greg, an Excelsior Springs native. He's a Kansas City guy, but he did, I believe he was banned from the league for a little while.
I'm amazed he's still in the league. You know?
It is a little bit surprising, but here he is. He's the interim coach. And look, the guy can coach defense. I mean, you say what you want, but the guy can coach defense. Is there anything that Cleveland does when you watch them on film that worries you in this game, Nick?
No, I mean, they talk about how they have a good pass rush. Myles Garrett's the one that the Chiefs are going to have to keep tabs on. But, I mean, linebacker-wise, they run themselves out of position so often to everything the Chiefs do, misdirection, pull-wise. Put a bunch of formation on the left side, seal that off. They're awful at keeping the edge in perspective. So you run counters, you run screens, you can run everything that the Chiefs Funhouse does in their playbook, and it's not going to work out well for them. Because the Chargers on 3 plays when I was watching their tape, they ran a deep post 3 different times, a play-action pass on 2 series. They had 3 catches for like 120 yards and 2 touchdowns off of it. And it was the same play out of the same formation 3 different times. So, I mean, Greg Williams clearly has an eye for what teams are doing against him.
All right, guys, let's don't take our word for it, though. I mean, when we asked the Cleveland Browns what he thought about this defense, he mentioned basically one guy. Let's hear from Patrick Mahomes.
We have a lot of great pass rushers in our division with Vaughn and Bradley Chubb and them, but Miles is just he's so big for how fast he is. I mean, he's physically just a big dude, and at the same time he has the speed to kind of get that bend. And but their whole D line is like that. I think that people always focus on Miles. They don't realize how good their whole entire D line is, as well as their defense. And so for me and for us, I'm gonna trust in my O line to handle the up front, and then I'll get it out of my hands and get it to the receivers and running backs.
That was Patrick Mahomes talking about the Cleveland defense. And it's worth noting that they do lead the league in turnovers. They do lead the league in turnover margin, which I think a lot of people would be stunned to find that out. So that is one thing they do very well. Myles Garrett, how big a problem do you guys think he's going to be, Kevin and Gary?
I think he's going to put pressure on this O-line, this Chiefs O-line. Now, the question is, how fast can Mahomes get the ball off? And he's been pretty good at that. So I think they don't have to worry about that. But here's to add on to the Chiefs, not the Chiefs, the Browns, because their defense doesn't always get its due. They lead the NFL in opposing quarterback passer rating, too. They give up a lot of yards per play when the quarterback gets that ball off, but that's a pretty interesting stat. And they're tied for 4th best in the league when it comes to fewest touchdowns given up. Only given up 11 passing touchdowns.
So Mahomes he's already played against some pretty tough defenses.
Yeah.
And so he's already been tested. Listen to that guy talk. When he talks, I mean, I melt every time.
I've noticed.
I don't know what it is.
His heart is a flutter.
It's incredible. Kevin says he's done pretty good at escaping. Blisters. I mean, pretty good. The guy has really been incredible for 9 games into his career. I'm going to start calling you Kevin Mahomes. All right.
No, I mean, I think that's what I would say. I mean, look, they face Ben Roethlisberger twice, but it's they faced a Roethlisberger team that was still trying to figure out what they had in James Conner, adjusting to the fact they didn't have Le'Veon Bell, and a Pittsburgh team that quite frankly didn't play real well in either of the games against them. But other than that, I think some of the Cleveland's gaudy numbers might also be a product of of who they've gone up against. They haven't gone up against somebody like Patrick Mahomes. He's taken on all comers. The only team that even seems to be able to solve him a little bit is the Denver Broncos, and they're still 0-3 going against Mahomes. So
now I have to ask Nick this. The Chiefs, in the NFL, teams have letdowns. There's already a couple signs. I just remembered something that I heard on, I forget which coach said this, but somebody said something to the effect that the Kansas City Chiefs, have to be prepared for, trick plays, for onside kicks. Are they taking Cleveland seriously enough? Because in the NFL, anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday. So what are your concerns, Nick, in that?
I don't have any concerns with this team. I think Mahomes always keeps them. He keeps that spark alive and that fire alive for him. If it had been Alex would have had a lot of sputters along the way now, and their record would actually be the opposite of what it is right now.
Did you hear that, Kevin?
The opposite? Like 1-7?
Did you hear
There's no way with Alex Smith at the helm, this team right here will be 1-7. They have too many weapons.
Have you seen that defense?
Now, they may not go 7-1 under Alex Smith, but there's no way in you-know-what that the Kansas City Chiefs would be 1-7 with Alex Smith at the helm.
4-3.
Right, 4-3, maybe 5-2. Come on, Nick Jacobs. Come on, man.
That was pretty strong.
That was. Come on, man. The Chiefs are my second favorite team. They're your favorite team, and you're saying this? Come on, brother.
Well, but Alex Smith isn't his second favorite quarterback.
Here's what I'm gonna tell you right now, and then I'm gonna be done with it personally. Is they would have they would have lost to the Chargers. Well, Chargers, they would have won that. They could have won that game potentially, but after that, they wouldn't have beat the Jaguars.
They would have lost to Denver.
They would have lost to Denver both times.
I think they would have beat the Jaguars, and I think they would have beat Denver at Arrowhead, but they would have lost it. Yeah.
Well, but as furious as Pittsburgh was coming back on them, they may not have held off that one either. So there's two or three.
Okay.
There's two or three.
So
you can
4-3
make a case.
maybe.
And they probably never would have signed Sammy Watkins for Alex, so that would have already taken double teams to where it would have gone to Kelsey and it would have gone to Tyreek.
Wow.
So
this is important. Kevin, just listen to what Nick's saying.
But they might.
I didn't think of it that way. This would have been a disaster of a season except for one guy.
But you never know who they would have used that Sammy Watkins money on defensively.
Well, Lee Zach thinks Mahomes is the best quarterback since Dan Marino, and he very well may be.
Well,
I think it's too early to determine through 9 games.
He's not Aaron Rodgers.
You're not saying that on this podcast, but you've said that before.
Well, I think he's as good as anybody right now. He's showing it.
He's
a hell of a quarterback.
He is the 1-to-1 favorite to win MVP according to.
Yes, I saw that.
What,
a 57% chance?
He is the hands down favorite, and part of that's because Jared Goff and Todd Gurley are probably going to split the vote, and look, that'll probably change dramatically after the Rams and Chiefs play, depending on the outcome of that game, because that'll give you some head-to-head knowledge. But right now, Las Vegas says nobody's played the position better in the NFL than Patrick Mahomes has this year.
Through 8 games, I have to agree with that. See, Lee Zach, I certainly agree with that.
So here's the question then, Nick. If you're the Browns, how are you going to attack this Chiefs offense?
Pray? No. I mean, Greg Williams, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to try to come after him, and he's going to try to disguise looks, and he's going to try a whole bunch of neat things. But at the end of the day, they're not going to work because Patrick's already seen what he needed to against the necessary defenses that are all better than the Browns, because the Browns are not a disciplined defense. All they have to do is run a couple of reverses, and the Browns are already out of sync at that point, and the Chiefs are inside the 20 at the red zone. So, I mean, it's not – I don't foresee it working out too well for the Browns.
Well, Greg Williams has perhaps rosier.
Greg Williams also said that he had 11 job offers, and I know that's not
Greg Williams, who, by the way, could have walked in here and hosted this podcast today without an interview, because that's how we roll. That's how much we think of Greg Williams.
That amazes me that guy literally said where a room where people could be recording him and use it against him, that he had 11 job offers,
including
4
5
of them didn't even have to show up for. I don't know.
4 he didn't even have to interview for. He just had to show up and sign the contract.
That must have been in a high school team or something.
Oh, ouch.
Really, it goes into, his abilities are good, but it's all the other stuff around him. And I've been on the field over the years with lots of guys with
Mahomes isn't any good.
This is exactly what you say to a star quarterback.
He fits into that protocol. But they've done a good job of surrounding him with people
look what's all around you there, Greg.
Take a short play and turn it into a long play. Take a space play and turn it into a miss for the defense, And Andy's always done a very good job of formation and things to create those open area spots for an athlete to make you miss. We've got to do a good job in space defensively on the plays that they will create.
So, listening to Greg Williams, the interim head coach of the Browns,
He's got me inspired right now.
Listen,
I'm gonna
man,
run through a wall for him.
I'm not convinced he's watched tape on this Chiefs teams yet. Yeah, there have been a couple times where the Chiefs have taken a short pass and gone the distance. But if I'm Patrick Mahomes, and I feel like he just called me out. I mean, if you're Patrick Mahomes, you said the Cleveland Browns have given up 11 touchdowns. How inspired are you to go put 11 on them this week?
I mean, well, he has the talent to do that. Patrick Mahomes does. I think when you break it down, offense, defense, special teams, even if you want to go deeper to the line, receivers, the DBs, I don't know if there's any check mark I would put toward Cleveland right now.
Just that turnover ratio. So if the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, they're going to win by a lot. So
But here's the deal. The run game, both teams suck against the run. And Cleveland does, too. Cleveland gives up like 4.5 yards of run. And then they haven't faced, I don't think, anyone like Kareem Hunt yet.
No, they also traded Carlos Hyde, who was their top back. I mean, look, they got Nick Chubb, who's a very good young running back, but
Kareem Hunt I think Kareem Hunt might be the X factor of this game. He's going to
Kareem Hunt's the X factor in every game. But if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm taking this personally. I'm absolutely taking this personally, and I'm going to come out with something to prove. And then on the other side, you mentioned earlier, Kevin, about Baker Mayfield and knocking him down. Is that the game plan? If you're Bob Sutton, who's done a pretty good job in previous meetings against Cleveland, but is that the game plan? Is just knock Mayfield around and never let him settle in?
What I've seen from Baker is similar to what Alex was when he first got here. He doesn't feel comfortable unless the receiver has 2 steps on the defenders. He will not throw that football until he sees that they have inside leverage or they will have 2 steps on a receiver. So he will hold that thing, and they need to work on a timer with him, like literally put a timer back there that goes off so that he understands that he needs to get rid of the ball, because he will hold on that thing for 8 or 9 seconds until somebody gets open. And as soon as you collapse the pocket on him, he drops his eyes, looks for where he can go to run, and that sounds really familiar from people have watched around here.
It's pretty much the opposite of what Patrick Mahomes does. He's just a master of keeping his eyes downfield. So what do you guys say? I mean, is Mayfield good enough to beat this team, or do you think the Browns have any chance?
Not yet. No. Yeah, he hasn't shown the signs yet.
Well, and also just as important, who's he have to throw it to? Especially, Callaway's out. He's got Landry, and the tight end.
David Njoku.
David Njoku, who by the way was
blanket,
who by the way was also on the injury report most of the week. So
so how effective will he be come Sunday? I don't know.
Well, I mean, against this defense, probably very.
Oh boy.
I just don't see it. I don't think Cleveland has the personnel, and they're in complete disarray after what happened this week. Everything is happening in Cleveland. They're still probably reeling from the Cavaliers firing Tyronn Lue. I mean, it's just that team is in complete that city right now.
Shout out, man! Raytown Class of '95. That's I'm Raytown Class of '96. He and I had Spanish. Hit me up on the email if you want old Tyronn Lue stories.
I will not.
Oy.
So, but no, I mean, look, I think Cleveland's in for a world of hurt this weekend. And we'll be back, though, and we'll let you know how bad it's going to be. I think I know what Gary's prediction is going to be. 66-59?
I might surprise you.
Well,
no, you won't, Gary.
Stay tuned. Hey, if you ever needed a reason to stick around for the next block.
I might predict snow, too.
There you go. That was it right there. All right. We'll be back on 4th and 1. Welcome back to 4th and 1. We're going to go through and give you our final predictions. I think everyone but Megan's going to pick the Chiefs to win, but we'll find out here.
No.
But first, can you? I believe that my lawyer sent a
Yes,
a legal notice today.
I got a very disturbing email today
about my contract status.
If I don't read this word for word, that
I don't think it said word for word.
Well, basically, I was threatened before I walked in here too.
That I would walk out of the podcast studio if this was not the fun fact for this game.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
So here's the fun fact, people. Sunday.
This is in my contract. This is my weekly writer.
Sunday is the 13th meeting between the brothers, Dustin and Britton Colquitt.
Colquitt Bowl XIII.
The NFL's
I don't know how we
first
didn't
family.
lead with this.
NFL's first family of punting. It marks the first since younger brother, Britton, left the Denver Broncos after the 2015 season.
That's true.
There's more. Britton's team owns a 9-3 all-time record against Dustin, but his career 43.5-yard punting average is the 4th worst against any team, and Britton's middle name is Douglas. And that's not nearly as cool as Dustin's middle name, Farr.
Yeah, no, if you're a punter, you would
Favre?
rather,
Farr.
Farr. F-A-R-R.
Oh, okay.
Not
Yeah.
Favre.
I was like, what?
He's a punter with the middle name Farr. His brother, who gets scared when he plays Dustin's team and can't punt as well, has a middle name of Douglas. So
Wow.
I'd rather have Favre
Fun
than
fact was
Douglas.
brought to you by the Palmers.
That's right.
Todd Palmer.
Dustin Colquitt, by
Great
the way,
fun fact.
also has 8 career tackles to 2 for Britton Colquitt. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Nick, what was the most impressive part of that fun fact for you?
Is the fact that Colquitt still doesn't have a restraining order on you right now, dude. You talk about that poor guy every week, man. That is the most impressive part. I think his family's concerned that your car may be outside at some point.
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like you should give respect to the longest tenured chief, Nick.
No, you definitely do. You make sure he's in every podcast.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, he doesn't get in every game, so we should make sure he gets in every. We should make sure he gets in every podcast. But to find out what the punting conditions are going to be for the Colquitt brothers, Gary.
Boy.
Dustin will have a better conditions than his brother.
Oh, okay. So like the wind will be going in the Chiefs' favor. I mean, what's it going to be
The
like in
weather's
Cleveland?
looking really good. It's going to be in the 50s, and there's going to be a breeze blowing towards the lake, not from the lake. So ideal conditions there. My concern for the whole day on Sunday is the Chiefs are going to beat Cleveland. I'm convinced of that. 42-20 is my prediction. And then after that game, we got the Chargers. The two teams that are on the Chiefs' tails we have the Chargers at Seattle. So come on, Seahawks, beat the Chargers. That would be great. The Chiefs get a 2-game separation from them. And New England on Sunday night against the Packers. It would be great to see the Packers, Aaron Rodgers light it up and beat New England. New England looked formidable last week on the road, of course. They're at home now. But those two big games, after the Chiefs game, it's almost must-watch TV because we have to watch these teams that are on our tail.
Yeah, no, Aaron Rodgers. I believe you can watch that on 41 Action News, right?
Sunday night? Yeah, Sunday Night Football.
And Rodgers 1-0 in his career against Brady and the Patriots, and I think they're 3-3-1. That's a must-win game for them. Sorry to bring
It's
up
the Vomit Bowl. As a Bears fan, I hate both those teams. The Packers and the Patriots.
Sorry to bring up your two favorite teams and
Exactly.
the future NFC North champions, the Green Bay
Chicago
Packers,
Bears,
the Green Bay
King
Packers.
of the North.
But Kevin, I mean, what do you see from this game coming up? 66-59?
37-13.
Wow, good.
Chiefs.
Good prediction.
37-13. All right.
Chiefs. I think Mayfield will have one touchdown pass and there'll be a couple field goals. And I think that we're going to have like 3 hurdles from Kareem Hunt.
So, 3 hurdles from Kareem Hunt. All right.
Wow.
I'd set the over-under at 2.5, so you're clearly taking the over. Megan, how much is Cleveland going to win by?
Cleveland's not going to win. Why do you think I'm going to pick Cleveland?
That was good.
I just thought you were going to mix it up. Shake things up, stir the pot as the producer.
I want some soup. It's kind of chilly. 35-21 Chiefs. My prediction.
35-21 Chiefs. All right. Well, you know what? Cleveland averages 21.1 points, so that was boring.
Oh, sorry.
All right, Mr. Nick Jacobs.
I will
blow us away.
I will be irritated if the Chiefs aren't up by 35 at halftime.
Wow.
From what I've seen on tape, I will be irritated. If they're on point, they should be up by 35 at halftime by how undisciplined that Browns defense is.
Well, so what's your final prediction then? 77 to negative 3?
I know you're obsessed with trying to create the Baker Mayfield Patrick Mahomes score, and you were hoping somebody would do it.
I was hoping.
It's not going to work out that way. I don't know. I'll make it 45 to 21 because at that point they'll have already packed up the circus tent halfway through the third quarter at that point, and then they'll just put Henne in there and let him get about
Any given Sunday. I want to see Chad Henne play.
Give him a quarter of work.
Yeah, I also I think the over-under for Kareem Hunt is 2.5 hurdles. The over-under for Darrell Williams' fourth quarter touchdowns is 1.5. Right?
Well, first he's got to actually be active. So
if there's ever a week to do it, this is the week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go out. I'm going to say 38-17. Clear Chiefs. Just kidding. I'm not going to pick that.
Oh yeah.
I think the Chiefs are going to roll. I do not think they'll be up 38-3 at halftime, though. I think that's an impossible standard that Nick has set the team to. And I
Good.
guess
They'll always have something to achieve.
But that's
then,
what I'm saying.
Todd.
They could be looking ahead to Arizona.
listen to us Sunday to hear how disappointed Nick is in the Chiefs' 56-10 victory in
Has there
Cleveland.
been anything? Has there been anything to like be concerned about with the Chiefs defense? I guess.
I mean, look, I think the injuries piling up on the offensive line, the defense as a whole, the secondary is pretty terrible. It'll be interesting to see, because he's not active yet, we don't know whether Daniel Sorensen could be a surprise addition. I do not think this is the week he'll be back,
No,
but
he said it won't be this week.
but Arizona Cardinals is probably a possibility.
Is O'Daniel? Is he the rookie?
Dorian O'Daniel.
That's the
yeah.
rookie.
Did you see the couple of
He's-
plays?
he
looked good.
There
He
are some
looked good.
instincts there. We might have a star.
Yeah, no, you should come on the Sunday podcast. We talk about that kind of stuff relative to Jordan Lucas and Dorian O'Daniel.
It really is a stud. I mean,
Thanks for listening, Gary.
All right.
he's going to be part of the reason why. Hey, book your tickets, folks, to Atlanta. Chicago Bears, Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl. By this time,
Wait,
Trubisky,
Super Bowl this year?
yes, in Atlanta. By this time, Trubisky will be hurt.
Yeah, I was gonna say Trubisky's got to
and
get out
Chase
of there.
Daniel will lead us to the promised land. Chicago Bears, Kansas City Chiefs.
And then
Book it.
the danger is Chase knows all of Andy's secrets.
Book it.
All right, well, there you have it. Chase, you don't even need to listen to any more podcasts because Chase Daniel is going to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in Atlanta later this year. We will talk to you again before the NFL draft sometime in April. Thanks for listening to 4th and 1.